Hey, this is Bill Shoup, and today I wanted to go over how I took a logo for a software project and added some animation to the background. So you can see we have this logo here. It's just text with a night sky backdrop, and it was used on the webpage here, and as well looks similar in the software project itself. What I wanted to do is take some meteors that I have also in this image and fly them through the image just to give it a little more interest. So this is what it looks like with the meteors animated. And there you have it. Okay, so let's jump right into it. The background for this is actually an image I shot a couple years ago of the Perseid meteor shower. And this is was actually shot with a time lapse on a stationary camera. And there's one background plate, and then these are the brightest meteors I captured over the course of about 8 hours or so. So what I want to do is I want to mask these meteors in and animate them flying through the logo to get that net result. So let's go ahead and start by creating a new composition. And we'll use HDTV 24 frames a second should be fine. We're going to do 10 seconds in length. We'll hit OK. Now the first thing we want to do is drop our image on the background. And you can see it's scaled up pretty big, so we'll hit the letter S. And then we'll scale this down. Actually, let's view this fit up to 100. And then let's move this guy around a little bit. And keep it kind of low so we can get some of these higher meteors in here. And that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now that we've got that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-compose this so that I have the scale and position reusable pretty easily. So we'll call this background plate, and I'm going to move all the attributes into the new composition. Okay, now that we've got that, I'm actually going to duplicate it real quick and turn that off. I'm going to reuse that later. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add in some text. So I'll grab the text tool and I'll click here and I'm going to type VegaDNS. And you can see here I'm just using white, but I've also got a little bit of a stroke on this using the Verdana font. So I'll close that out, and then what we want to do here is we want to take the background plate and we're going to change the track matte to be the alpha matte of VegaDNS, and that way we get just the background showing through. So grab my pointer tool again and then grab the text, and I can move the text around to try to match where we want it to go. So what we want to do is get a little bit of overlap with the horizon there, but also maybe get some stars. I'm actually going to scale this up a little bit. Grab a corner and shift, scale up a little. And we want to try to avoid this meteor right here, so we'll just go to the left of that a little bit. Get some stars in the logo, like in the V over there, a little bit over here. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. So what we can do now is, actually before I move it or pre-compose it, I'm going to go ahead and change the color. So instead of using the actual color of a warmer look, I'm going to use a hue and saturation color correction. Drop it right on that background plate. And you can see here we can use the master hue and move it around to change the color. So we want something blue like right around there. I'm actually going to change, I'm going to use 183. That was a color I liked in a previous test of this. Yeah, a little bit lighter there. Okay, now that these two things are done, I'm going to grab them both and I'm going to pre-compose them. We will call this logo. Alright, now we've got this other background plate that we turned off, and this is what we want to use to mask out our meteors. So we're going to have two copies of this. One of them is going to retain the color, and the other one is going to be the matte to separate the meteors from the background. So I'm going to leave them both turned on right now, and for the upper one, we'll call this meteor matte. And then let's rename this one to meteors. Okay, and over here what we're going to do is we're going to grab a tint effect, which really just turns it black and white, and we'll put it on the meteor matte. And then the next thing we'll do is grab a levels effect, and we'll drop the levels on there. And now with the levels, what we can do is we can crush these blacks down a little bit, give us a little more separation. That might be just about all we need. We can play with the contrast a little bit. But we want to retain as much as the meters as we can. We just want to make sure that they're matted out pretty well. Maybe just a little bit more. There we go. Right up there. Okay. So that mat's looking pretty good. All we want to do here is we want to actually select the meteors only, just the ones that we're going to use. So I'm going to grab, say, 4 of them. So I'll grab the pen tool And let's zoom in a little bit, see what we're doing here. Grab the pen tool and just grab the meteors that we want. Doesn't have to be super clean. Oops, I did not have the layer selected, which means that we created a shape layer by mistake. So I need to grab the matte layer and then start drawing for our pen. Okay, and I left the other one on, so the other background on, so that we can see what we're doing here. Let's grab this little guy. And then we'll grab this one over here. Some different kinds of meteors, so we have a little bit of interest. And let's grab this guy. Okay, that is, how many? That's 3. Let's grab one more. No, that's 4. We got 4 now. Okay, so now what we can do, we can fit up to 100% again. And let's take the meteors, and then we're going to use an alpha matte of the meteor matte right above it. And that way we have just those meteors coming through. Oh, sorry, not alpha. We want Luma matte. Luma, I was wondering why there's backgrounds around it. There we go. So now we're just getting that, just the meteors themselves. And if I turn off the transparency, you can get a sense of what these are going to look like. Okay, so now that those are done, we're going to pre-compose this so we can reuse it pretty easily. And we're going to call this meteors. And what we're going to do basically is take these and animate them to fly through the logo. So we're going to have 4 copies of this. There we go. We got 4 copies, and we'll turn off the others for now. And we'll just start with the first one. And let's grab this guy, and we'll fly it right through the V there. So what we want to do on this is we're going to use the pen tool again, and we're going to isolate just this meteor. So we're going to draw a mask on this copy of the meteors. There we go. Now we've got just that guy. Grab the pointer again. And with this selected, what we can do is we can find, oops. I'll grab the meteor layer there. Find a start position, and let's move the to about, I don't know, 12 frames in or something like that. And then we're going to hit the letter P to get position. And then we're going to set a keyframe that will move forward about that far, and then we're going to find a final position for this. Move all this up a little bit. And right, so now you can see the beginning of an animation there. Now there's a couple things I want to fix here. It is moving to the right a little bit, so on this final keyframe, I'm going to hit the left arrow button a couple times and see if we can make it go a little bit straighter. I think it's a little better. So in order to keep this only showing up when it's in the logo, we actually need to create a matte for it to use. So what we're going to do that is we're going to turn this off for right now, and we're going to take our logo and we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to create a mask of not just the logo, but we actually don't want the horizon to show up either, because we want a meteor to come down and go behind the horizon. So now that we have this logo copied, we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to use the tint effect to turn it black and white, and then we're going to grab a levels layer, or levels effect, not layer. Plop it on there. And again, we can, if we're going to focus on the bottom part first, we're going to crush the blacks a little bit, pull this in. That looks pretty good. And then we'll bring up the whites quite a bit. Now what you'll find is even if we crush them all the way, we're not really going to be able to do this in a way that totally separates everything. So let me crush these blacks a little more again. Okay, the blacks are looking pretty crushed. And now we'll try to crush these whites, but we can't do it fully. So what we're going to do is we're going to make two masks here, or 2 layers that each have their own masks. So I'm going to grab the pen tool, and let's just grab this upper part here that's totally white. And we're going to hit the letter M to get to the mask. And then we are going to change the mask to be, oops, didn't mean to do that. Back to normal. We're going to change it to subtract. And that way we're actually masking in just the bottom. So if we turn off this base logo, we're just masking in the horizon and the clear white right above it. And now we can take this logo and we can duplicate it. And we can take the mask on this one, hit the M for mask. Instead of subtract, we're going to switch it to add. And that way we actually have just the white on the upper part of the logo. Now you can see we still have some of the the non-crushed whites up there. So I'm going to switch back to my pointer here, and I'm on this layer. I'm actually going to go back to the levels correction here, and let's move these around a little bit. I don't care so much about the black, so I'm going to move those over, and I'm going to crush the whites a lot more. And then boom, we actually now have a clean, pretty clean, just sky part of the logo. Now you can see there's a little bit of a line here, and that's where that's the edge of the two masks. So all we have to do really is just grab this one mask on the upper one, it doesn't matter either one, and we can take the mask expansion and set it to about 2 pixels. And we'll click away from here. There we go. And now you can see we've gotten rid of that line right there. So that's it. So now that we have created a mask that we can use of just the upper part of the logo, we can take these two and we can pre-compose them, and we'll call this Sky Matte. So now that we have the Sky Matte, we can place it above that first meteor that we animated, and then we can change the track matte of that meteor, and we can switch it to Luma Matte of Sky Matte. And now we should see that the animated meteor just flies through the text. And I turned off that layer, so of course we're not going to see it. There it is. That's pretty cool. So now it just flies through the sky and then does not go in front of the horizon. So now that that's done, we can take this sky matte and we're going to duplicate it 3 times. And we have to put one above each of the layers that we're going to be animating here. Okay, so we've animated this first meteor. Now I'm going to show you how we'll go about the second meteor. So we'll turn on that meteor layer. And let's see, we have 1, 2, there we go. Why don't we grab this guy next? Actually, got to keep track of which meteor we used. We already used that guy. So let's grab this one next. And why don't we fly it through the letter D? So again, we want to use just this one, so we're going to grab the pen tool and mask it out. Now we've got just that one. And let's move forward a little bit, say to about here, and then we'll hit the letter P for position, create a keyframe, move forward a little bit further, and then we will try to drag it straight down through about here. Not dragging it very straight, but we'll correct it afterwards. So I think I want to shift the whole thing maybe to the right a little bit. So let's grab both keyframes here. Hold down Shift, move it over a little to the right. That didn't work. Created a new keyframe. You got to have your playhead at the right position. Okay, let's keep moving it to the right a little bit. You got to keep it on one of the keyframes. Okay. Take this right one and we're going to move to the left a little bit here. Okay, that's pretty good for now. We can always go back and tweak it later. Alright, so now I've got the animation done. I need to go back and change the track matte to be Luma Matte of the sky matte above it, and then you will see it's now hidden except for when it comes through there. So let's take a look at these first two real quick. Go back to the beginning, hit the letter V, then we've got the letter D animation. I'm going to go ahead and animate these other two, and I will fast forward through this so you don't have to watch in real time. Okay, now we've got all 4 meteors animated, and let's play it back and get a sense of what we're looking at here. So I'm feeling like the first one is definitely a little slow. So let's move this keyframe to the right a little bit further back to make it faster. That's looking better. I think we'll do the same thing with the second one. Make that a little faster. And then you can play around with the spacing of how you want these to be interacting with the overall composition. It's nice to have a little bit of unpredictability. Then it loops back. There we go. All right, this is looking pretty good. So one of the things I want to do here is we want to turn on the motion blur, and then for each of these meteor layers we want to turn on the motion blur. So meteor, motion blur, pretty much every other one. That'll make it look a little bit smoother. Alright, now we can get into a little bit of polishing here. First of all, I'm going to pre-compose all the meteors into something called Meteors Animated. Just keep things a little bit cleaner. So let's open up the logo, and on the background, I'm actually going to grab a glow effect. Drop it on there just to make it look a little bit nicer. Let's go back into the... Let's close that comp one. That looks pretty good. And then in the meteors animated, we're actually going to drill down into the meteors themselves, and we're going to put a glow on here. Not the matte, but the meteors. Oh, excuse me. Actually, we're going to do this with a adjustment layer. There we go. Now we can play around with this a little bit. We could actually make the glow radius. Play around with the intensity a little bit. Make it a little bit more intense. Play with the threshold to see how much of it's glowing. Sometimes it's nice to take the glow and duplicate it. And then what we can do is we can take the second one and bring the radius down a little bit. Let's bring that intensity down just a little bit. That actually looks pretty good. Let's go back to the comp. See, that all looks together. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. And if this seems at all reminiscent, one other thing you might remember, probably most of you won't, but a little bit of inspiration from that, circa 1994, 95. Early internet. Okay, there you have it. Let's take off this background black, get a sense of what it looks like without it. And that's looking pretty good. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I'll do a separate video that shows how you might export this to either a GIF or a HTML5 video with transparency. Thanks for watching.